glad you are here. If you're with me at 316, if you're on our South venue, because this room's full. If you're at our 211 campus, you're watching online, we are honored that you would be with us. Look at somebody next to you and say, you look good this morning. Do it for me. You look good. And then look at somebody and say, the room's full because school's back in. School is back, which means we go back to church. I've learned that. I'm not bitter. We're pretty full in the summer. Hey, if you're with us, we're honored you're here. I hope I get a chance to say hello. We're kicking off a new series called Starting Over. And the reality is, just so you know, I don't preach in sermons. What I mean by that is by the end of our time today, everything's not going to be wrapped up in this nice little bow and neat package and send you on your way and your life forever now has answers. I kind of take my time and just let us sit and marinate in it. But what I'm hoping is over the next 5 weeks, God kicks something up in your heart. And I think he wants to start that today. Now, in this part of the country in August, the whole mess of us, whether we are going through it or not, we all know what this type of season is. It's eerily familiar. It's when we start school back. And so whether you have kids starting school back or not, you know what that means. Because you were a kid once and you started school back. It's the pace quickening, life happening. Book bags that sat empty all summer now are full, right? It's time to rock and roll. It's time for a new, like everything just quickens up. And so we know that. And there's more of us in this room. We're more alike than we think because there's a lot of things that I would say are eerily familiar that we all experience. Even though we're different, there's this eerily familiar emotions, like deja vu, like I've been there before. Like fear for some of us in the room. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're scaredy cat, but you know fear. Everybody in this room knows fear. It's different reasons, different things, but we know fear. Right? For some of us, confusion. We know what it is to be confused. I'm not sure what to say. I don't know what to do. We know what it feels like to be at a loss for words. And just like school kind of brings back an eerily familiar feeling, like I've been here before. I've walked down this road before. Our life has picked up pace before. I know what it is to go back to school. I think there is a place many of us live that's eerily familiar, even though it looks different for everybody. It's this place, this word that I want to sit down on for 4 or 5 weeks called regret. And if you're taking notes or if you came with us on the back of the bulletin you received when you came in, there's just notes to kind of keep me on track. You don't have to take it if it doesn't serve you, but for many of you, it serves you well throughout the week. And so there's notes on the back of your bulletin. You feel free to take it. Here's what I said. Regret, church, is a universal emotion if you're taking notes this morning. Like I don't even have to define it for you. I don't even have to define it for you. You know it. And the truth is, it's common, and not all regrets are life-altering or life-shattering. Anybody with me? Like, not everything we regret is life-altering or life-shattering. Sometimes it's just humorous. Sometimes it's lighthearted. You have done the thing where you look at a picture taken 20 years ago thinking, what in the world was I thinking when I wore that? Come on. Y'all not with me yet. Some of you ladies had perms 20 years ago. Come on. You're like, easy, bro. But you know what I'm saying. You're like, that was cool. Like, we've all thought to ourselves, we've had that feeling like before we eat something, I'm going to regret this. You know what I'm saying? Like when I drive past this place, okay, we're on the same page. And that hot sign's on, like the Holy Spirit of God is calling me. And I know I'm going to regret it. I know I'm going to feel it, but I pull on in there anyway. And you know what happens 20 minutes later, after 3 or 4 donuts, my heart's beating irregular. And the sugar and the gluten's got me hallucinating. I'm seeing dancing clowns. It's all going bad. Like sometimes we have a plan. Like this house is going to work out. Like my staff and I, we were laughing at some funny wedding videos of like weddings gone bad. Like we found this one and we don't know these people. It's on YouTube. Could be your cousins. I don't know. But here they are. Hey, it's our wedding day. We're going to have a wedding party picture on the dock. Like, well, baby, we're going to spend the rest of our days, every weekend we're going to go to the lake. It's our special place. It's our happy place. Why don't the whole party go out on the dock and get a picture taken? Yeah, that'd be great. How cool is that? We never thought about that. And the photographer's like, let's go. So that's the plan, a great picture on the dock. But then here's the reality. Come on. They fall in, man. I mean, that is memorable. Now, here's the best part. Here's the groom leaving his bride. Come on, man. I mean, he just literally said, until death do us part. which basically meant unless we are drowning. You with me, man? That's just regrettable. Write this down. I put this in your note. Nobody, and I mean nobody, plans on regret. We plan on happiness. We plan on success. We plan on marital bliss, lifelong intimacy. Come on, we plan on being parents of the year, not our teenagers avoiding us. Right? We plan on success. We plan on retiring early. We plan on our company exploding, not filing bankruptcy. We plan on our ideas taking off. That's the plan. Nobody writes on their calendar. You never put on your iCalendar, this is the day I'm going to live to regret. Nobody schedules that. Like, the truth is, we all plan for success and happiness, even though we all don't experience. But here's the rub. Nobody plans for regret, even though everybody experiences it. Like, everybody plans on happiness and success, even though the truth is, not everybody ever fully experiences that. Nobody says we're going to plan on regret, but we all experience it. And here's what I want you to get. Regret is usually a highly rational emotion. And that's big that you get this. Highly rational. Like, there are emotions and feelings you have that are irrational. They're real feelings. They're real emotions, but they're irrational. Like, fear at times can be irrational. You don't really have a reason to be scared, but there's just something in you. Like anxiety, take it from a guy who's dealt with anxiety in his life. Like, there's no logical reason why I should be anxious, but I'm anxious. And it'll drive you crazy. But here's the thing about regret. If you regret, there's a rational reason. If you feel shame, if you feel guilt, if you feel remorse, if you carry this weight, there's normally a reason that's there. It's rational. I did something. I missed an opportunity. This happened to me. Like, there's a reason regret is there. There's a reason it's a universal emotion. It's very rational. I did this. I didn't do this. I missed this opportunity. I had this happen to me, so I have this emotion and this feeling. Very rational. Not all emotions are that way. Some are illogical, some are irrational. Regret, though, is rational, right? And here's what I want you to put down. Every decision we make makes sense in the moment. Like when we do something, when we say something, it made sense in the moment. We felt like it. It seemed right. What seemed right to me in that moment, it felt right. I felt like I had good counsel. I look back and I'm not sure I did. And you and I know this. Regret's just part of the human experience. So what I want you to do is take your Bibles and go to Luke 22, because you see all through Scripture, one of the most famed passages of regret is often kind of mentioned, but it's never marinated in. In Luke chapter 22, I want you to see this picture of Jesus right after the Lord's Supper. And we celebrated the Lord's Supper last week at all of our campuses. And I want you to see a conversation that we miss that happens between Peter, whose name was Simon, before Jesus called him. It's probably the most mentionable, when you come to regret, what most people know, whether you have a church background or not, this picture of regret, but we never marinate it because there's a lot there. So here's what it says. His name was Simon before Jesus changed it. Last Supper, right before Jesus is arrested to go to the cross. And here's what, the disciples don't know that's about to happen. So here's what it says. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan demanded to have you that he might sift you like wheat. But I pray that your faith may not fail. And when you've turned again, strengthen your brother. So Jesus says, Simon, bro, Satan's going to tempt you. He's told me he's going to tempt you. He wants to tempt you. And I pray that you don't falter. That's my prayer. Well, Simon looks back at him and goes, Lord, listen to me. I'm ready to go with you to prison and to death. Nothing's going to stop me. Bring it on. Right? Nothing's going to stop me. Bring it on. And look at what Jesus says. I tell you before the rooster crows, today you will deny 3 times that you know me. Listen to me. Not in a month, not in 6 months, but before the day is out. A Jewish day was counted as evening to evening. They've just had dinner. Here's what Jesus was saying. In about 2 hours, bro, you're going to deny me. Well, so I guarantee you, Simon didn't leave doing like this. Peter didn't leave doing like this. If you know Peter and you've studied Scripture, here's what Peter left. I'll show him. Oh, what's he talking? I'm going to show him how faithful I am. Peter's plan was faithfulness. Listen to me. That was the plan. Nobody plans on regret. So you pick up in verse 54. It says, then they seized him, speaking of Jesus, and led him away into the high priest's house, Caiaphas. And Peter following at a distance. Now pause right there. I'm not going to deny you, I'm with you. But then they pick up Jesus, and what does it say? Peter's following at a distance. Interesting. 2 hours later. And when they kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat down among them. A servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the light and looking closely, said, "This guy right here was also with him." But he denied it, saying, "Woman, I don't know what you're talking about." A little later, someone else saw him and said, "You're also one of them." Peter says, "Bro, I'm not." He said, "Man," I'll just throw bro in there. "Man, I'm not." And after an interval of about an hour, certainly somebody looks at, this man was with him, for he too is a Galilean. So this guy was at the beginning of Jesus' ministry. I've seen him, but Peter said, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." And immediately while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. So pause. I don't know Jesus. I'm not one of his followers. In fact, I don't know anything you're talking about. That's what Peter just said. 2 hours ago, I will go to prison and go to death with you. I don't know this guy. I'm not one of his followers. I don't know what you're talking about. It says the rooster crowed, and here's the most heart-wrenching part of this whole story that Luke captures. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. So Jesus, who's at the high priest, about to face beating and mockery, the rooster crows, and Peter and Jesus locks eyes is what Luke says. Come on. What weight you must have felt, and here's what it says. And Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, "Before the rooster crows today, you're going to deny me 3 times. And look what verse 62 said. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Can anybody say regret? Now here's the thing. None of us in this room have ever been in a moment like that where we've denied Jesus outright. But you know regret. And regret's this reality. It's not just the choices you've made. It's not just the things you've left undone. It's not just the things that have happened to you. Here's the weight in this room, just like Peter's. Here's the weight. It's not any of those, not just what I've done, not what I've left undone, not opportunities I've missed. Here's the weight. Everything we've done, the Lord has seen it all. That's the weight we feel. Like we love saying, man, God sees everything is with me when we're going through a tough time. God sees everything and is with you when you're making stupid decisions. That's the weight we feel. And the Lord looked back at him, right? And the Lord looked back at him. The Lord has seen it all. Now let's get real practical. You want to get practical with me? I got some buckets back here. And I think although regret looks different for all of us, there are layers to regret. There are layers to choices we make. All of us have experienced it. I don't have to define it. But there's different, we're going to call them buckets this whole series of regret. Right? What are you saying? Like the first one is a regret of action. Write this down. Regret of action. Choices that make us smack our head, kind of Homer Simpson, right? And think, I wish I'd never. Who is that? Don't worry about it. Oh, I wish I'd never. What are you talking about? The buckets of regret are the lies we've told. What started out as a small little white lie. It just kind of was, I didn't want to have an awkward conversation, so I kind of fudged a little bit. It has become a pattern where we never tell the truth. And the truth is now we're living in consequences of it. It's the bucket of regret. Regrets of action. Maybe it's relationships we've torpedoed. Come on. Dating relationships gone bad. And it's been in the past, but we remember it. Maybe it's our first marriage. Listen to me. No matter how much we want to shift blame, the last time I checked, it takes 2 to tango, my friend. And we have regret, right? Maybe it's just friendships that were once solid, that things have just grown distant and there's relationships that have gone by. How about insulting labels we've applied? Like, what do you mean? Like we've made judgments on people, we've slandered and gossiped, and we just said it to our close friend, but it's gotten back to people. And boy, we regret it and we carry it, don't we? Come on. How about dumb choices we've made? That's like a catch-all. Like what do you mean by dumb choices we made? Like the people, can you believe in your life the people you once listened to for advice? The places you used to frequent, right? And we've looked at it, we go, yeah, that's us. Here's one we all know. If it's not the dumb choices we made, here we go. The money we've blown. There are some of us, even though the economy's good, you're living in credit card debt because you're paying credit card debt off with other credit cards. And you're sitting there going, what do you got to show for it besides a whole lot of pressure and not much joy? And how many of us have thought, where in the world all that money going? Come on. And how about for some of us, it's the addictions we fed. Like by fed means it started out as an escape, and now it's become something that enslaves us. Regret is real. But that's the most common when we think of regret. Regret of action. Things we've done. But there's another bucket that I think a lot of us in this room don't think about, but it's true. It's the regret of inaction. It's when we shake our head and think, man, I wish I would have. If only. It's about opportunities wasted. Like if I'd have made more time to be at my kid's event, if I'd have made more time in my marriage, if I would have taken that step of faith and trusted God. It's about time wasted. I was so consumed with things that didn't matter. Right? I was so consumed with things I look back and go, really, that's not that big a deal. But boy, I thought it was a big deal then. Right? Like I've sat at the deathbed of many people. It's part of being a pastor. And I've never one time heard somebody go, boy, I wish I would have made more money and I wish I would have stayed at work longer. Never one time. The time that we've wasted. Maybe it's risk not taken. Maybe I should have stepped out in faith. The truth is we had a chance. The truth is I had this opportunity. I look back on it 10 years ago and I blew it. It becomes a heavy yoke. Maybe it's love left unexpressed. Like I think they knew what I thought. I think they know what I know about them. I think they know how much I love them. Things haven't changed, but boy, things have seemed to get on track. Maybe it's words that we've left unspoken. Like it's the times we thought if I would just have stood up and said something. I should have made a stand. I should have made a difference. I had the opportunity. Maybe for a lot of us in this room, here's another big one. It's forgiveness withheld. Like it was just a little grudge, like it really shouldn't have been that big deal, but there's this wall between me and her, this wall between me and them, or this thing that happened. And for many of us, we think we're punishing somebody when actually we're walking around carrying a heavy bucket called forgiveness you have not given. Here's the crazy thing. In the short term, people tend to regret action. Like when we think of regret in the short term, we tend to pay the price for action. But here's what psychologists will tell you. Over time, it's the regrets of inaction that haunt us. Right? It's the regrets of inaction that haunt us. Like all of us have, I wish I would have, if I only then took that opportunity. I think more people struggle than we care to admit with what might have been. With what might have been. I love what a poet said. He says, of all the words of tongue and pen, of all the words written and of all the words said, the saddest are these, what might have been. If I should have. This was my opportunity. And there's a lot of us in here, and we're in our mid-40s, and we're looking back, we're in the middle of a life. We go, it's not bad, but I had different dreams. But the truth is, I didn't take some steps I could have. I didn't make some, and there's just this weight that hangs over us. But that's not the only two. And that's what most people think. Things I've done and things I've left undone. But I think there's a third bucket we carry. And it's things that have been done to us. I call them the regrets of reaction. Right? Things that have happened to me and the choices I've made because of them. It's the abuse that was suffered and the choices I've made because of it. It's the betrayal I felt, the rejection I felt, and because I never want to feel that way because my parents, because my dad, because my boyfriend, because my husband, because my group of friends rejected or betrayed me or let me down. I'm never going to feel that way again. So what happens is I make choices to make sure. Maybe it's the disability that we didn't ask for. Maybe it's the sickness that we didn't bargain for. We didn't want it, and it breaks our heart. Maybe it's the accident that we didn't sign up for. We're in it. We don't like it, but the truth of the matter is it's heartbreaking. But what breaks our hearts, not just what's happened to us, what makes things more complicated is all the choices we make in response to what's happened to us. Boy, the room's been quiet. See, this is life. This is life. When bad things happen, left undone, things that we've done, Peter made choices. Peter had choices he left undone. He didn't do. Peter had plans. And somewhere along the way, listen to me, church, it becomes this cycle that we get into. And listen to me, nobody considers it, but what I find is many people live in this cycle. I call it the sorry cycle. It's not in your notes. Most people don't realize it, but what it is we have a longing for purpose, a longing for love, a longing for meaning. We have a longing means something that leads to a choice. It's the desire up under the decision. Anybody with me? So we got that. So then we make a choice, seemed right, made sense, and before you know it, we look back and go, why did I do that? Why was I thinking? Then we get on the cycle of regret. We get on the cycle of regret, and then we're going back to a longing. Why? Because we have this regret, we're going to make this choice, that'll make this regret go away. And we're going to do this now, and that'll make this go away. We have this different longing because of choices we made. Look, quite honestly, and I know he wouldn't mind me sharing, I talked with a guy between services. He goes, I'm on the backside of my second marriage, and this is where I live. With big tears in his eyes. I'm on the backside of my second marriage, and this is where I live. And here's, most of you, I need to listen, you don't even realize you're in it because you become numb to it. It's all you know. Like psychologically, emotionally, you live this out all the time. Made some decisions. Here's where life is. So I regret it. I feel this weight. I carry this around. And so what I do is then make new decisions to try to get past all that. Psychologists have a term for this, and I'm not a psychology guy. I'm a pastor. I like psychology. Counselors in the room is cool, right? But they have a term for this called rumination. It's this endless sorry cycle that doesn't help anything, the regret cycle. And truthfully, the word comes from what I watched growing up on my grandfather's farm over and over again. My granddad owned a farm about 15 miles from here, and we had 60 to 80 head of cattle, Black Angus cattle. And we grew up on that farm. And I love those cows, you know. I mean, we always wanted to go cow tipping. You know, it never worked out, but we always wanted to do it. But the thing that fascinated me about cows is, like, they're always chewing. They're slow animals. They're good for beef. Like some of you like that hamburger you ate last night is a cow, you know. Right? They're all good. It's all good, you know. But here's the thing about them. They're always chewing. So I'd look at my papa. He's passed on now. Like they're always chewing, but like I know if I'm eating grass, I wouldn't chew this much. He goes, but listen, they have one stomach with 4 chambers. It's how a cow is wired. It's how a cow is built. So they're constantly chewing the grass, chewing the feed, chewing the hay, and then pulling it back up and chewing the cud and breaking it up more. They have one stomach, 4 chambers. They're designed to always be pulling things back up and chewing it and breaking it down. Here's the deal. It's all they know. I think many of us in this room, what we don't realize is we were never designed to live in this cycle of always pulling back up decisions, always pulling back up. Almost we become numb to it. What we've done, things we've left undone, opportunities we've missed, and always chewing it up. You and I were not designed for that. The truth is, we don't even realize we're on it. Listen to me. The past, church, was never designed. The past was never designed to limit your present and paralyze your future, but for many of you, it is. That'll preach. The past was never designed to limit your present, what you're going through right now, nor was it designed to paralyze your future, but it is. And let me tell you who that's on. You. This is the cycle most people live in. Continual cycle over and over. Made a choice, going to make a different choice. Because I hate this feeling of regret, I do different things. Listen to me. The root of emotional health issues many times, regret. The root many times of mental health issues, regret. The root of many forms of addiction, and there are addicts in this room. Let me tell you what the root of it is. Regret. The root of, at times, depression. You know what it is? Regret. The root of much of our relational dysfunction in our life. What do you mean? You are full of drama and every relationship is strained in your life. And let me tell you what the root of it is. Your regret you're projecting out on everybody else. Your issues because the way your dad or your mom treated you or you were raised that you project on everybody else. Your issues with your ex that you project onto your kids. Your issues, that issue at the underlying everything is regret. Regret, here's the thing. They have a tendency to grow over time, and so do the cost. Regret has a tendency, you listen to 2:11? To grow over time, and so do the cost. They don't just magically go away. We don't just sing them away in a worship song. That's not the way it works. So here's my warning for this series. Again, I told you, I'm not going to wrap it all up. I'm going to make you wrestle this week with God before it. Here's my warning. Surface solution, if surface solution and cosmetic changes could cure regret, then we'd all be happy and at peace. I want you to write that down. If surface solutions and cosmetic changes could cure regret, this feeling of shame, this feeling of guilt, this feeling of remorse, if it could cure it, then boy, we would all be happy and at peace. Because that's the road we tend to go down. Our world, our society continually says, here's how you move out of the sorry cycle. Here's how you move past your regrets. Here's how you move past the choices you made. You make new choices and different choices, right? But what I mean by that is we become addicted to the new and the more. What do you mean? We find a new relationship. We find a new passion. You start a new job. You buy a new house. You find a new place. You get your kids in a new school. You adopt a new attitude. You get a new strategy. You make more money. You find more friends. You create you project a new image. Social media helps with that. Why? Because if you don't like this feeling you have, then go for something new. New hobby, new strategy, new sets of friends, new school. I give myself a new look. I'm going to get in shape now. I'm going to do all these new things. It's cosmetic changes and surface solutions, and we are addicted to it. That's why all of us have more money in the bank than we need, and all of us have less joy in our heart than we desire. The way to life. It's what we carry. And none of those tactics, new, different, are bad and evil. They come from a place of moving past it. But here's the problem. Over time, they're just shiny distractions and we end up right back at the same place. Carrying a bucket. Carrying a bucket. Right? So here's what I want you to hear. To move past regret, we got to make peace with what's happened. We have to make peace with the opportunity that's missed. We have to make peace with the decisions we continually made. We have to make peace with our past. We have to make peace with the chances. We have to make peace with the money that we've blown. We have to make peace with what has happened to us. We have to make peace with the bitterness that resides in us. That's what these 5 weeks are about. Not only the things we've done, not only the things we've left undone, but also the things that have been done to us. Now, the reality is the cure is not me saying, now, one, write this down. Because preachers, we have a tendency to go, here's how you're going to move past regret. 1, be nice to people and talk to God. 2, be really nice to people and talk to God a really whole lot. 3, the guys like me do that all the time. I think it's a lot messier than that. So that's just me I think there's a lot more to it than that. I think there's deep places we got to get to. But I want you to see this interesting verse in the dialogue in Luke 22 that I skipped past and I did it on purpose. That I breezed past and I did it on purpose. So Jesus says, Simon, you're going to be tempted, but I prayed for you that your faith may not fail. But listen to me, I love this. And when you've turned back, strengthen your brothers. It's almost like Jesus was looking at Peter. Remember, Peter was known as Simon before this. Peter, I don't want you to fail. But here's the truth. I'm the sovereign God of this universe. You're about to. Peter, I'm pulling for you. I don't want you to fail, but I'm going to let you know you're about to. And here it is. And when you've turned back, after you and I have locked eyes and I've known you're a phony and you're a fraud because you let me down. In your mind, not mine. You failed me. And when I lock eyes with you, listen to me. When you work through your regret, when you work through the weight that's going to cause you to carry, when you find peace with it, oh, Peter, my friend, because everybody else knows you carry it, your brother's faith is going to be strengthened because they're going to see the difference he's made in your life. I've made in your life. Peter, your regret, when you work through it, will be the platform I'll give you. And the whole reason all of us are sitting in Bethlehem Church is because of a guy named Peter. What you are going to feel doesn't have to disqualify you. What you are going to feel doesn't have to limit you. The choices you've made are not all encompassing. The things you've left undone, the promises you've broken, right? The image you're trying to project, although you know it's not really the image that's really going on, God knows what's happening inside. I think there are a lot of us that regret is a weight we carry. But the problem with carrying the weight is you don't have to. And the problem with carrying your weight is it's limiting your present. And it will paralyze your future. And it'll paralyze your future. Listen, here's the best part. You know what the gospel is? The gospel is this. God just doesn't forgive, he forgets. He erases the board. You know what the gospel is? Here's the problem. You and I understand forgiving, but we don't know about forgetting. God just doesn't forgive, but he forgets. That's the gospel. He erases the board. He destroys the evidence. Listen to me. God is either the God of perfect grace or he is not. Grace forgets, period. He who is perfect love cannot hold grudges. If he held a grudge, then he would not be perfect love. And church, here's the best news. I believe God chooses to have a graciously terrible memory. I think the sovereign God of this universe chooses to have a graciously terrible memory. 2:11, our God chooses at the cross of Jesus Christ and moving forward to have a graciously terrible memory. It's his choice. And let me tell you what, that's good news for people like you and me. We have to understand, we may understand forgiveness, but we can't forget. Scripture teaches that God not only forgives, but he chooses to forget. Church, the Christian faith is built on this. We have a God who outloves our wrongs. We have a God who outloves our missed opportunities. We have a God who's not straddled by our blown chances. We have a God who doesn't disqualify us when he should. That's the Christian faith. What you and I have to learn to walk out in is what it means to walk out in the reality. Not just that God forgives, but that he forgets. How do I walk out in that? Because I just can't, Jason. That's these next few weeks. Some of us are in 40s, some of us are in 50s. And we look back and we blew some things in our 20s. Some of us are now in high school and we look back 2 years ago and we've blown some opportunity. We're starting a new school year back and it's like, what is it? Right? People know about me and they know what I've done. Some of us are on the back. Some of us right now, here's the thing. We're walking through some really dumb choices in our life that you're making and only you know you're making. God knows it. You're going to regret it and God's going to walk through you with that, going to walk through that regret with you. And probably the best way I would kind of close our time is this summer. I did a lot of updating at my house. So updating, I mean, did some cosmetic changes, kind of what I was talking about, some surface solutions. I bought the house 7 years ago. We lived in it for 7 years, but the house is 20 years old. So after 20 years of having a house, it takes some wear and tear. So back in the winter, we had a pine tree fall on our house. And don't worry, everybody lived. And so But courtesy of State Farm, we got a new roof out of it. By courtesy, it means I pay them every month, and they owe, you know what I mean? That's what I mean by courtesy. But put a new roof on our house. So that just kind of led me this spring and summer. We're going to redo some things, just kind of got in the mode. New roof, so we painted the front porch. We love our front porch. It's out there a lot. Painted it, replaced some old rotted wood that I need to replace. Then we painted some walls in our house. Swapped the kids' bedroom. Claire's getting older. She wants to be next to the bathroom. Caleb got kicked out from the room next to the bathroom so Claire's sister could get it. So we redid their rooms, painted. We hung some blinds. We kind of did some things to the hardwood floors. 20 years old, a house takes its wear and tear. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Now, we didn't put all that wear and tear there. Some of that we inherited when we bought the house, but we kind of did a whole lot of surface things, some cosmetic changes. But listen, all the way through it over the last 7 years, this is the first house I ever bought with a basement. And anybody know about these things? I have an unfinished basement. Now, let me tell you about unfinished basement. A lot of you like, I'd love to have a house with a basement. I like my unfinished basement, but 20 years of an unfinished basement, let me tell you what's down there. Cobwebs, stank, all right? I mean, spiders, it's dark, it's musty, right? And it's been that way, and there's a couple things on the wall, and don't tell my wife every once in a while, I'll find a mouse in a mouse trap down there. And it's fine for lawn equipment, but it's been in serious need of cleansing for some time. Now, here's the crazy thing. Brand new front porch painted. It looks good. I love your porch. I love it. Me too. But all the time, I'm doing all these new things, in the back of my head was nasty basement. Oh man, look, we got a new roof. Isn't it cool? These are the new kind of shingles. Nasty basements. Look. We changed rooms. We hung some blinds in this 20-year-old house. We updated some of the hardwoods, and in the back of my mind, and only I knew it, was this words, nasty basement. Keep on adding new things. Keep on projecting your image. And the Holy Spirit of God is going, sweetheart, you got a basement that's got to be clean. My brother, keep on doing it. New things. Look how happy. As long as people don't know how jacked up our family is and we put this image on, everything will be well. Let me tell you what this is God telling you. You got a basement that's got to be clean, my friend. Now, in the midst of this, my wife goes to Haiti. We got back from vacation. My wife takes off to Haiti on a mission trip. So I just decided, because my wife hates the basement, hates it. And she doesn't hate anything, but she hates that basement. All right, so it's like, okay, I'm going to surprise her. So me and the kids, and I wouldn't even let them go down there. I said, y'all stand outside the garage in the back door. And I put on pants, and I put on, gloves, and I got my shotgun, and we made our way down there. I'm about to take any critter out that comes out of here. And for 2 days, I cleaned. And I cleaned, and I cleaned. And I fought off cobwebs, and I threw out old things that needed to be gone. And listen to me now, you come, it was nasty work. Nobody could do it but me. I wouldn't let anybody close to it unless I got into it. You see what I'm saying? Listen to me. Let me tell you what, as you begin a new school year, some of you moms and dads in this room, let me tell you what some of you who are visiting us and kind of figuring out Bethlehem, let me tell you what this series is about. This series is about God saying, you can keep on adding all these kind of little side things, act like it's all good, or you can let me do the work of the heart. The deep work of the heart. Now, here's the funny thing. Now when everybody comes over, first place I want to go is let me show you my basement. Come on. There's nothing fancy about it. It's still unfinished. You can still see everything exposed, but you know what? I did the work. But you know what? I engaged the work. Husbands, your kids will be grateful when you engage the dark places of your heart. Moms, your kids will be grateful when you engage the places of your heart that you put a wall against. I moved past it. Look, we're good. Come on. That's the invitation. What does that look like? Here's all I want you to do this week. To be honest about the buckets we carry. Because we all carry. To be honest about the places that we come back to. To be honest about the cycle that we live in. To realize that many of us live in a cycle we've become numb to. That the Holy Spirit would bring life because there's freedom.